In this video, we're going to cover kids sports psychology. I'm going to talk about what kids sports psychology is, the benefits it can have, and then also some strategies that you can use as a parent or a coach to teach mental skills to your young athletes. Hey there, I'm Eli Straw, sports psychology consultant and the founder of SuccessStartsWithin.com. Now, the reason that sports psychology is important for young athletes is really the same reason that it's important for older athletes. The role sports have on the mind and the role that the mind has on athletic success. But not even just the role the mind has on athletic success, but the importance of having a strong mind so that you can enjoy your sport. And that's one of the really interesting things about younger athletes. Because yes, when you have a 9, 10, 11, or 12-year-old, I know that you, as the parent or coach, you really want them to succeed, and they really want themselves to succeed. But more than that, they need to have a way of allowing themselves to enjoy their sport. Because let's say you have a 9-year-old, and already it's their dream to play a Division I sport. Well, what happens if they experience anxiety and they get to be a sophomore or junior in high school, and that anxiety becomes too much? They're going to likely lose that motivation, and that dream is going to kind of fall to the side. But if they understood ways of coping with that anxiety, and they had tools that they could use and apply, then it would be a lot easier for them to manage that, to keep that motivation, to keep that love for the game, and really continue to work towards their goals and work towards their dreams and actually achieve them. That's one of the reasons it's so important for younger athletes to learn sports psychology tools and techniques, so that they have ways of managing these inevitable challenges that are going to come their way. But on top of that, when you have a younger athlete, whatever they learn at that age is going to really carry with them. So if they learn and begin to pick up some negative self-talk, some low confidence, they begin to feel some anxieties, that's not going to go away on its own. It's only going to get worse as they get older, unless they learn how to manage it. But if you can teach them how to think a little bit more positively, manage anxiety when it comes, build their confidence from them rather than looking for their confidence from other people, that habit is going to then carry with them. So that's why it's so important for young athletes, youth athletes, to really begin to develop some sports psychology and mental training tools, techniques, and some mental skills. Now, specifically, I want to just go over 4 different benefits that youth athletes can expect from working with sports psychology and working on their mental training. Now, if you want to jump right to the strategy, there's going to be a timestamp below. You can just go ahead and jump right to that, where I show you some tools and some strategies that you can use to implement mental training for your youth athletes. But benefit number 1 is an increase in their confidence. By teaching mental skills to young athletes, number 1, they're going to understand where their confidence needs to come from. So rather than looking to other people, looking to the recognition from a coach saying, hey, good job, making sure that their parents after every game tell them how good they played, they're going to be able to have confidence for themselves. I'm not saying that all that other stuff isn't great. I'm not saying that it's not going to still make them feel good, but as an athlete gets older, the more that confidence can come from within and what can come from an understanding that they do have the skills and they do have the talents to succeed, then the better they're going to play and the more they're going to enjoy their sport, because their confidence is going to be stronger. It's going to be more sturdy. It's not going to be so fragile and based on other people's opinions. Maybe the facial expression of a coach. Maybe if a coach yells at them, their confidence then plummets. By teaching them sports psychology tools when they're young, they're going to have an increase in their confidence. Benefit number 2 is more emotional control. One of the young athletes I'm working with right now, she's a 9-year-old, and I'm working with her to improve her ability of letting go of mistakes, not getting so upset at herself, not feeling like she has to be so perfect. When a young athlete begins to implement these tools, number 1, they're going to be able to control their emotions then and not allow mistakes to get them down so much. But also, simply practicing to control your emotions, becoming more aware of how you're feeling, becoming more aware of how you're thinking. Over time, what's going to happen is you are going to be building the skill of self-management, of controlling yourself, of controlling your thoughts, your feelings, your behaviors. So the younger an athlete really begins to do this and begins to practice that, the better it's going to be as they get older. Because simply practicing these mental skills and practicing mental training is going to give them the opportunity to be building self-management. Benefit number 3 is they're going to have more enjoyment in their sport. When they're not feeling so much anxiety, so much expectation, they're not dealing with low confidence, the fear of failure, then they're going to be able to enjoy themselves more because it's simply going to be playing. Now, I'm not saying that it doesn't mean that they have goals. I'm not saying that it doesn't mean that they have high expectations for themselves. What I'm saying is all that stuff is managed. Of course, they're still going to experience anxiety. Of course, young athletes are still going to struggle with confidence. But when I work with older athletes, when I work with college kids, for example, and they're coming to me because they've lost the love for the game, they're wondering where it went, they have no motivation anymore. Most of the time, that is due to either perfectionism, performance anxiety, the fear of failure, or high expectations. One of those mental game challenges is causing them to lose the love for the game. If all of that was stripped away, they would simply enjoy performing their sport just like they always have. Therefore, for younger athletes, if they can learn how to manage all of these mental game challenges that are going to present themselves, no athlete is going to be safe from performance anxiety, from maybe a bout of low confidence, from worrying about making a mistake. All of that's going to be there. It's about learning how to manage it. And if they can learn how to manage it in a healthy and a positive way, they're going to be able to enjoy themselves more. And then lastly, number 4, this one's a little bit different from the previous 3, is that they're going to have an edge over their competition. If you are a parent or a coach who has a serious athlete, someone who at the age of 9 or 10 is already saying that they really want to play in college, they want to play professionally, then don't you want to give them an edge over their competition? Think about how many athletes don't even begin thinking about their mindset until maybe late in high school, more than likely in college. So by your young athlete making use of the mental training strategies that I'm going to talk about here in a second, they will be getting an edge over the competition. So those are the 4 main benefits of using sports psychology for younger athletes. Now, let's get right into the 4 strategies that you can use to begin building mental skills in your young athlete. Strategy number 1 is to teach them the importance of their thoughts. The reason that it is so important to understand your thoughts and to control your thoughts is because of the impact your thoughts have on your feelings. One of the first things that I do when I work with any athlete, no matter the age, was we have to look at, what are you thinking about right now? What are you thinking about before games? What do you think about during a game? What are you thinking about after games? And not just what are you thinking about, but getting them to understand how what they're thinking is influencing how they're feeling. Now, for your young athlete, a really cool exercise that you can do is to have them write down all the thoughts that come to their mind when they think about, what am I thinking about before, during, and after a game? What am I thinking about during practice? What am I thinking about on the way to practice? What about when coach gets mad at me? What kind of thoughts are going through my mind? Just have them write those down. Then what you can do is you can go through that list. And this is going to be tedious, right? But it's going to help. And you can ask them, okay, is this statement, let's say they say, why did I do that, right? We'll keep it simple. Why did I do that? Why did I make that mistake? You say, is that helpful? What kind of feeling do you think that's driving? If you were to say to yourself, why did I just make that mistake? How is that really making you feel? Then you say, okay, do you think that feeling is helpful? Is it helping you play your best? Is it helping you let go of that mistake, for example? Then if they say no, what you do is you go back, and for all of the negative and unhelpful thoughts that you identified in their list, you create a positive alternative. The positive alternative is going to be a statement that helps them feel more confident, feel calmer, believe in themselves more, perform better moving forward, let go of mistakes. Then, once you have a complete new list of all positive and productive statements, what you can do is just review that list with your athlete every single day and have them read over that list every single day. By doing this, number 1, you're teaching them the importance and the power of their thinking. But then what you're doing by reviewing it with them, and then more specifically having them read it over every single day, is that they are actually going to begin training a new thought pattern. Therefore, let's say it's 6 months down the road, and they've been reading this list to themselves, well, maybe not every single day because they're younger kids. Let's say they read this list to themselves 4 days a week, right? That's a really good amount of time each week to be reading it to yourself. By the end of those 6 months, naturally, those new thoughts are going to be a little bit more natural for them. They're going to have become habitual. when they then get to a game, when they get to practice, it's going to be easier for them to think those thoughts. Strategy number 2 is to show them the power of visualization. Visualization is where you mentally train or you mentally rehearse your skills in your mind. This means that you are practicing seeing yourself perform before you actually perform. And when you do this, it can help build confidence. It can help build mastery in your skills. If you visualize a relaxing scene, that can help you calm yourself down. So there are many ways that we can use visualization to help young athletes. But a really cool exercise you can do to actually implement this is to make use of pauses between reps in training. So an example would be you are throwing batting practice to your young athlete. Maybe he plays baseball or she plays softball, right? But you are throwing batting practice to them. Let's say between either every pitch or every 5 pitches, you pause, you have them close their eyes, and visualize themselves hitting a nice line drive up the middle. Or if you're working on opposite field, hitting a nice line drive to the opposite field. By doing this, and you taking it into your own hands and you controlling it and you saying, okay, pause, close your eyes, visualize that, you're helping train the habit in them of seeing them perform in their mind before they actually do it in real life. And that's a really good way to introduce a young athlete to visualization. Strategy number 3 is to train them to control their breathing. Your breath is a very underutilized skill in sports, mainly because it's natural. It's automatic, right? So we don't put too much attention on it. But whether it is reducing performance anxiety, whether it is being a little bit more focused, whether it's really anything in sports, calming yourself down, breathing can help. So if you're a young athlete, how can you implement breathing into their training routine? How can you get them a little bit more comfortable with making use of controlling their breath? Well, one way that I like to use with older athletes is mindfulness meditation. But if you don't want to implement mindfulness meditation for a young athlete, an alternative that still works really, really well is having them do some count breathing every day. This is what it would look like. You'd have them sit in a chair, close their eyes. Maybe just take a few deep breaths to calm themselves down. And then you tell them, okay, I want you to breathe in for a count of 5, and then I want you to breathe out for a count of 10. But when you breathe out for a count of 10, I want you to really focus on breathing a little bit slower and controlled. Maybe think about releasing a breath on every single number. What this does, if they do this on a consistent basis, maybe a few times a week, is number 1, in that moment where they're actually doing that count breathing, it really is practicing mindfulness because they're bringing their attention into the present moment. They're bringing their attention onto the numbers. So that's going to help just over time generate this feeling of calmness in them and a little bit more control over their breathing and over their mindset. But also, it's getting them comfortable with this skill. The reason count breathing helps in sports is when you actually apply it, right? So by having them sit down for a few times a week and go over this count breathing, that helps them be a little bit more comfortable with it when it comes to a game or when it comes to practice. So they're going to be familiar with this, and they're going to be able to use that count breathing in that moment because it's something they're familiar with to calm themselves down and to increase their focus. Lastly, strategy number 4 is to help them evaluate their game. Perfectionism and feeling like you're not living up to your own expectations are 2 of the main things that can cause lower levels of motivation and can just overall lower your performance as you get older. So when you have a young athlete, if you can show them a more positive way, a healthier way, more productive way of evaluating their performance, then that's really going to help them as they get older, and also it's going to help them improve along the way. This is what the evaluation is going to look like. So instead of having them judge themselves, you want to allow them an opportunity to think through their training, think through their games objectively. And it works like this. You first ask them, what did you do well today? And then you ask them where you can improve. The reason that I always set it up in this order is because the first question is aimed at building confidence. Confidence needs to be built through seeing yourself succeed. So you have to give yourself the opportunity to succeed. What I mean by that is you have to give yourself the opportunity to acknowledge achievement, acknowledge success. Even when you have the worst game you've ever had in your life, there's going to be one little thing that you can point to, no matter how frustrating it is. So this one definitely takes some patience because when you're working with a young athlete and they don't feel like they did very well, they're not going to want to identify something they did well. But that's where it's your responsibility as the coach or the parent to really say, hey, listen, it's important for us to identify something that you did well. You really have to think about that for a second. So after a practice or game, that must be the first question answered. Then what you're going to do is ask them where you can improve. We're not going to say, what did you do wrong? How bad was your day today? Why was it so bad? Can you believe that call from the umpire? Can you believe coach didn't put you in? None of that negative kind of talk. It needs to be, all right, where can you improve? Number one, because we're bringing their attention onto themselves, right? They can only control themselves. So by asking them these two questions in that order, they're both geared towards things that you did well, things you can improve. So they're all about you. Not in a selfish way, but in a, hey, let's focus on what you can control way. But then also what this does is it turns something that's natural, which is identifying something that you did wrong, something that you want to, or something that you feel like you didn't do very well today, and it's automatically turning it into a way of improving, of learning. Because that's really what you want to teach your kids and teach your young athletes, is taking mistakes and learning from them. And by asking this question, where can you improve, not only are you taking mistakes and learning from them, but you're actually applying it, because they're going to give you an answer. And then you can say, all right, well, what can we do about that this week, right? Let's say you're a basketball player, your kid's a basketball player, they feel like they can improve their shooting. Didn't shoot very well today. All right, well, you say, good. What are you going to do about it this week, right? What are you going to do during practice? Are you going to maybe go in the backyard and shoot on your own a little bit? And then going into the next game, what are you going to focus on to help yourself shoot a little bit better? Not that you're putting pressure on them, but you're just getting them to see the importance of identifying things that you can improve and then applying them to practice and training, and then thinking about how to actually improve upon that coming into the next game. So those are the 4 strategies that you can use to begin building mental skills in youth athletes. Now, the best way to build mental skills and teach sports psychology to young athletes is to have them work one-on-one with a sports psychology consultant or a mental performance coach. So if you're interested in learning more about the sports psychology consulting that I offer, I'll put a link to it in the description below. But if you're not ready for one-on-one coaching, these 4 strategies are going to help you tremendously at teaching mental skills to your young athletes. Thank you for watching, and I wish you the best of success in all that you do. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. We put out new videos each week on sports psychology and mental training. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. If you're interested in learning more about one-on-one mental performance coaching, head over to successstartswithin.com.